Hello, I'm Peter Dunsmore and welcome to this series where I'm going to show you some basic veneering techniques. As you can see, there are some attractive veneers on this, and if you have a look at the drawer fronts, this one's veneered in walnut curl, and you can see this, it's like a rising sun effect which flows round here, and it's actually made from one piece of veneer but cut into strips so that the pattern flows through the front. If you can see, it gives you that semi-circular curve. Now if you zoom in onto the top and have a look here, there's an attractive piece of walnut veneer here, but I've cross-banded it with walnut. And what cross-band means is I've cut strips of veneer at right angles to the main layer of the veneer on the top. And to break up the difference between the two colours, I've fitted a little piece of sycamore stringing, which is only 1mm square stringing. Now instead of a square edge, if you have a look here, there's actually a moulded piece of walnut on the edge here, and that makes a feature of the edge of the top. Now all this looks quite complicated, but it's not actually. If you think about it, it's just veneers stuck on a simple plywood box. And as you can see, there's the edge of the plywood for the sides, which have been covered in veneer. There's a top, and that's some plywood. And if you look carefully, you can see the end of the walnut, which is underneath, and the veneer on top. So really there's nothing complicated about veneering. I'm going to show you the techniques I've used to veneer this top with this moulded edge and the cross banding. These are very basic steps that you can apply onto any other project you wish to make. There's some beautiful veneers around, and some of the most attractive ones are the burr veneers, and these are cut from the burrs on the side of a tree, the sort of cankerous growth that you see lots of small twigs coming out of, and the lump is cut off the tree and it's sliced. And if you look closely at some of these burrs, you can actually see the little whorls, and these are the embryo roots from the twigs coming out the side of the burr, growing through the actual burr. Now each consecutive leaf will be almost identical to the previously cut one, which is an advantage in that you can actually reverse match and get some really attractive patterns, which I'll show you in a minute. But you can get a piece like this. This is a piece of Amboina veneer, which is beautiful figuring and marking, and when it's polished up, it almost looks like a sunset. It's beautiful reds and yellows. You can get dark veneers like this walnut veneer, and as you can see, there's 3 consecutive pieces. They're almost identical, and you can make a feature out of these. Here's another piece of veneer. This is a piece of burr maple, which is a much paler wood, but again you can quite clearly see the embryo twigs going right the way through, or the roots of the embryo twigs. But this is quite a good example here, because if you get 2 consecutive leaves like this, and match them together, you can get that attractive figuring going right up the middle. Or alternatively, you might find this a little bit more attractive. Or perhaps end on, and you start looking at the patterns formed here, and it's up to your imagination to cut this how you want to. This here, very, very fragile, and that's perfectly normal for some of the burrs. Very, very fragile. And as you can see, this is another very, very good example. If you look here, you've got dozens and dozens of tiny, tiny wee little holes and knots and whorls. This is just one piece off a piece of elm. This is elm burr. As you can see, it's full of holes, and that's perfectly normal. But as you can see as well, it's very, very brittle. There's a hairline crack down here where it's been manhandled at some point, and it's almost on the point of breaking. This here is a wonderful piece of walnut curl. And in fact, that marking here is what I've cut to make the drawer fronts on this chest of drawers here. And you can just see that. That was another piece of this. That's actually where you've got the walnut tree and a huge branch comes out the trunk like this. And that is the rings from the trunk of the tree. Now, as it dries out, it's very, very fragile again, and there's some cracks appeared here. And what I've done, I've taped them together with some veneering tape, which is basically water-based sellotape. It's like gum tape. You lick it and stick it on, and then when you've finished laying the veneer, you can just damp it and peel it off. Burr veneers can be purchased in almost like books. These are consecutively sliced pieces. So when it was sliced on the machine, this piece would fall off, followed by this one, followed by this one, followed by this one. Now the markings on this piece will be very, very similar to the one on this piece, but it'll be a little bit different to the last piece, because as the embryo roots go through, they meander right the way through, and it'll be slightly different. Now, quite a useful thing to do is to be able to reverse match some of these veneers, and I'll show you the effects you can get from this. But the important thing is, if you're going to reverse match two, to get two consecutive ones, or four, you'd buy 4 consecutive leaves. The expensive way to buy it is to buy a whole booklet, unless you've got a particular project in mind. It's easy to go to a veneer supplier and purchase just 2 pieces or 4 pieces of burr. When you undo the bundle of veneers, you should really mark them in some way so that you can keep them in order. And just a piece of chalk, in a similar way to this piece of elm has been marked, just a piece of chalk, and that way it's easily rubbed off afterwards and it doesn't get in the way and it doesn't stain the wood.